watching. So welcome to the Tuesday, May 28th, regular meeting of the Town of Easton Planning and Zoning Board. And as always, we are being recorded and going out live via ECAT. So residents of Easton, if you could bear with us while we try to get our technology lined up. First off, there's no one in the audience other than folks here to present themselves, but for the record, we're going to open a public hearing for 661 Washington Street, full circle development, which we received a request to continue to June 10th. So our clerk will open the meeting and then we will vote to close and continue the meeting. Well, not vote to continue the meeting, sorry.
So Town of Easton notice of public hearing. In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 41, Section 81T NGL, the Easton Planning and Zoning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 28, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. in the Colleen A. Corona Boardroom, Easton Town Offices, 136 Elm Street, Easton, Massachusetts, on the application received from Full Circle Development, LLC, for a design review associated with a special permit mixed use under Easton Code Book, Chapter 235, Section 236 to 48, Queesit Commercial District, Section 235 to 56, Special Permits, and Appendix A5 Special Permit Mixed Use to allow a development that includes primary non-residential and primary residential uses on the same site at 661 Washington Street, Massachusetts, Assessors Map 36U, Lot 100 and Lot 102. A copy of the application and plan may be inspected at the Planning and Economic Development Office, 136 Elm Street, Northeastern Massachusetts, during regular business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed application and plan should appear at the time and place designated for the public hearing. This notice is also available at masspublicnotices.org. Gregory Strange, Chair.
Thank you, Peter. So as I stated today, late afternoon, we received a request from Paul Prue, the agent for the applicant, to he has to reschedule the hearing, but since this is a public hearing, it was advertised, we have just opened the hearing and now we will entertain a vote to continue to June 10th, 2019.
Motion to continue to June 10th, 2019.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion passes. All right. So next up is 250, but
display usually it's control things.
But is yours going to be long, Doug? Like real long? Should we have? Should we have Doug start?
Yeah.
I mean, just so we're not all.
I mean, we're
sitting.
not right. Yeah, because Doug came with handouts too.
See, sometimes technology hurts.
Or we just go.
You guys.
I think we just have to go with.
That's fine. We can just do the hard plans.
That's a Mac. I don't know if that'll work.
All good. It's
Have we ever used a Mac with this?
And I tried plugging in earlier and had the same problem. So it's not.
Oh, so it's a different, yeah.
All right, so we're going to go on.
I think we
All
just
right,
need
let's
to
get going.
get on with the meeting.
Dead air. We're losing our viewers.
Yeah,
Sorry, Doug.
yeah.
So feel free to grab a microphone and identify yourself for the record, please, and have at it.
They've got hard copies. Craig Dwyer, representing Green Street Power Partners, and our application for a solar project site plan endorsement at 250 Foundry Street for Southeastern Regional Vocational Technical School. And we're here today. We've been in front, we've met with the Historical Commission as well as with the Zoning Board of Appeals to obtain a dimensional variance. I think you guys will remember we met prior to meeting with the Board of Appeals to introduce this project to the Planning Board and explain our intentions in designing this in a way that would work for the residents and some of the historical resources that we had close by. In 2 meetings with the Board of Appeals and hearing some input from the local abutters and some concerns for the historical resources that they had close by. Our first plans didn't go over so well. I think the revisions that we made to the plans were very well received by the neighbors. We were able to set our transformers back a decent amount from the road and a decent amount from their homes and anywhere that they might be able to hear or even have visual impact from these transformers. The solar arrays we also have set back from the road a considerable amount from the original design, and as a result, we have obtained a dimensional variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. And tonight, we're excited to get back in front of the Planning Board, seeking site plan endorsement for this project that has now been 2 years in the works. So,
Okay, so if I just quickly, so I'm just looking, what is the date of your current set of plans? What's the revision date? Is it May 14th?
May 14th, that's correct.
All right. And it still says preliminary on it?
It still says preliminary. Where do you see
I see it on every sheet. Looking at permitized, every sheet,
Next to the
bottom right,
title.
right next to the title block. Next to
Gotcha.
the page number, it says preliminary.
Gotcha. That could be, I can check with the engineers on that. That could just be because they aren't side profile construction ready drawings, but as far as the layout of the array in terms of a site plan, this is the final location of all the arrays.
All right, so Stephanie, so are you set with your presentation? Or?
Yeah,
You
I'll
got-
open it up for any questions that you guys have.
All right, so, yeah, so let me, Stephanie, do you have,
It's okay, I'll just go through it. Suzanne didn't realize that I had done a staff report, so let me just quick.
you mean other than this, the March
I
11th
did-
we're getting, right? So-
Right,
So do you want to just read your staff report to us for the
Yes.
record,
yep.
please?
So, let's see. There were still some plan deficiencies that I noticed, which was that the site is in an aquifer protection district and it's not noted on the plan and should be. The names of the owners of the immediately adjacent properties, including properties across the street, aren't noted. I mean, you have the map and lot information, but it's supposed to show the names of the owners. And a lighting plan still has not been provided. Some of the things that haven't been addressed, but we did talk about, and I think you indicated they would be provided. There has to be a sign consistent with section 235-29 of the code that requires the identification of the owner and a 24-hour emergency contact number be displayed with the array. Let's see, shall be constructed as required. Herbicides may not be used. So these are just points that I made that should be included in a final decision. Herbicides may not be used to control vegetation at the installation, and hazardous materials shall not exceed the amount for very small quantity generators, which I don't think you'll have on the site. But again, that would be part of the decision. And the installation owner-operator shall provide a copy of the project summary, electronic schematic, etc. And then there are some monitoring and reporting requirements and the decommissioning. So I just, again, I felt that based on the modification that they made, the setback, the fact that they received their variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and those conditions all be included in any decision that the board could consider issuing an approval.
Okay, so,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt it.
well, go ahead.
I just wanted to speak to the plan deficiencies. We did receive that staff memo from Stephanie, and due to the holiday weekend last week, our engineers are underway with making those amendments to the site plan, and they will be included on the final site plan. If we could seek conditional endorsement for the site plan based on those changes being made, we'd greatly appreciate being able to get underway.
Yeah, that's a little, I don't know if we want to set that. So what plan are we considering? Because I guess I look at, I'm just want to, you know, and Stephanie, maybe this question's for you just as much as the applicant. You know, when we say the site plan, these are pretty much construction documents for the equipment.
Correct.
Right, and so, when I, you know, I understand we're looking for site plan approval, but, you know, things here, you know, the relationship with stormwater management, existing topography, things like that, which, you know, how do we want to handle that, you know, are we just gonna waive everything, or, I mean, this really isn't the site plan, this is really.
Well, they're not making any modifications to the grade.
Mm-hmm. Do we have that in writing anywhere, or is, I mean, that's not stated on these plans, or are you not concerned with that, or, I'm just wondering. Because here's my concern, I have a plan that says preliminary, you listed a bunch of our standard easy things which aren't on the plan, and I get it, you wanna get going, but why do we have a board if we're just gonna approve plans that don't have anything, but you'll come in and with the plan? I like to have things tightened up, otherwise, why have the process if we're gonna make a farce of it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a farce, but we probably should have suggested that they request a waiver. I mean, these are going over the existing paved areas, so they're not disturbing either the pavement or the grades. They are have gone for has stormwater review been completed?
Stormwater review's been completed, aside from the long-term SWIP, which is, we're hoping to have that be conditional.
The operation and maintenance plan.
Right, we have the SWIP completed, but the long-term SWIP that was typically not requested for canopy projects such as this is, you know, an exception for the town of Easton requesting this. We have that underway.
And who requested that?
That was,
We requested.
Wait,
through the
Concom or
planning
the
department.
planning department?
Planning department. They're going, they don't need a review with the Conservation Commission because they're staying out of the buffer zone.
correct.
So that is, that,
So having not seen your report, what is your recommendation, Stephanie, on this?
my recommendation was that the board could approve this. I would say we don't issue the decision until the revisions come in on the plan that I've identified in my report, and they provide the long-term stormwater pollution prevention plan.
And board members, you guys have any questions or comments?
And I do think that, I would ask the board to waive the requirement for a contoured plan with elevations and topography.
There will be,
The understanding that there will be no land disturbance, and again, that can be incorporated into the decision.
there will be no change to the grade or topography. The only impervious spaces we're creating here are just the concrete piers that the steel canopy structures stand on to support the solar panels.
And what size are those? The concrete pads, or what are the footings?
The concrete footings, I'd have to get the exact dimensions of the concrete footings from the engineers.
But just
But they're
sort
not
of the
in-
average that you see in a field where there's a line of solar panels and then there's
Right.
a footing every, say, 12 feet or something like that?
Yep, I believe we have.
There's a cross-section here, but
Yeah,
it doesn't
that's
call
what I
out, it doesn't call out.
It'll be specific for
size.
each array.
And
understand
it's
that.
not additional impervious.
So what I'd like to see, I'd like to see a final plan that doesn't say preliminary.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a final plan with consistent and accurate dating of a revision set, because they vary on each page here, just so we can tighten these things up.
Yep.
So if there's a question a year up the road, we're not, you know, scrambling, trying to figure out. And I'd like a statement somewhere on there, what I just heard, that the existing topography is
Will not
staying, you know,
change.
all common sense things that we should be on here. If we're gonna go through site plan review, let's talk about the site plan, let's not talk about the structural engineering of the units, which have nothing to do with us. And I didn't mean that in reference to your question or your question. I just,
What's shown on the plan.
so I'm fine, if the board wants to move ahead with a conditional, I really don't want to make a precedent of this. This is happening more and more, and we really need to tighten this up, We need final, complete plans or reports before us a week ahead of time so we can review this stuff. And I'm saying this, it seems weekly, so forgive my frustration. I just, so if you can promise that you're gonna get that stuff back to us, and if the board is so inclined to make a motion, I will entertain
Yeah, I
that
just have a few
motion.
questions, though.
Go ahead.
Over here. What are the fire protection mechanisms for this type of project?
Fire protection mechanisms, we have access roads, so on the full plan set here, we have to leave ample access roads for fire trucks to be able to get in between the arrays, and also direct access to the frontage there, so they can access any fire hose, any fire equipment they still need to.
It's usually the transformers that would have the most trouble, if anything. I mean, that's what I've seen, just in, out on the street.
Sure,
Usually the
yeah,
transformer
everything needs to be clearly marked. Transformers and electrical equipment need to be fenced in, 6-foot high fencing. They need to be marked with signage. All this is, standard operating procedure for these arrays. Other than that, you're really looking, the transformers that we're putting on site and the equipment we're putting on site are no more a danger to or fire hazard than any of the electrical lines that are
Right.
running up and down the road. This is really just
Well, except they're bigger, so if a big transformer happened to catch fire and explode, then
For this size project, I
Larger.
think they'll be quite smaller than the transformers that are already on the school's property.
right, yeah. In comparison to the load they already have at the school, it will be smaller than some of the transformers they have on site. So really just
right, and they probably have the transformers right next to the building, whereas these are at least,
right. These are actually
the way.
easier to get to for for fire protection purposes.
Yeah, I mean, just one more thing I was thinking of is, just as far as location, I mean, when the school was built, there was, whether it was a site plan or not, there could have been like some thought put into where they were putting the school. They might not have, might have like put it off the road for a certain reason. Maybe put the workshop areas and farther back or something. I'm just wonder when you sort of just like add this component to a pretty, big building and a big, large site, whether there had been sort of some thought and discussion, either, when they built the building or maybe over some additions, about why the building is where it is and, why they left open space in the front and, how that could affect this. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure the school is probably pretty old at this point, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And whether or not the county would even go through a site plan review at that point might have been.
Yeah,
Logical
I mean, I can't tell you when the
Oh.
school was built. I mean, it clearly, when you go in and look at the building itself, it's probably 1960s, if not earlier.
And, yeah. And at the same time, though, I mean, the plans changed. They could have never wanted a parking lot right out against the road, and then, 15 years later,
Well,
they
yeah.
added one because they needed more
Because
parking or
more,
something, right?
and
So,
more kids are driving to school and.
that's all.
So I remember when you first came in, there was some discussion of a fence or rail fence, but you're not doing any of that, right? I see it's not on the plans.
Correct.
And was the wetlands delineated that's on here? Or I'm just curious, because
These
again, this
wetlands-
really isn't a site plan, but I see wetlands denoted
Right.
in dimensions off of that. So that's just unusual in process. Or is that because this is a school, so that just gets waived?
No, it's, what they're showing, because they're outside, the limit of the wetland resource area would be the limit of the paved area on the easterly side. And so what they're showing is the Mass GIS data layer for the DEP layer, which is an approximation. If anything, it would extend further south and further to the east, which again would be outside of the buffer zone.
But not over the paved area?
Right,
Okay,
right.
yeah, that makes sense, okay.
Yeah, I mean, normally, if that were green space in the buffer, we would want them to delineate the wetland and have it confirmed. Most of the other wetland resources on the site have been delineated because of other projects that have advanced in the last several years.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
I know occasionally when you're doing solar arrays, you put gutter systems underneath canopies. Do they plan on doing any of that here?
No, they're not doing they're not doing the gutter system and water management.
Okay.
It's an additional added cost, and given the given the existing drainage on the site, we're not going to be affecting the runoff here. I believe the drains could support it, and this will be further outlined in our long-term SWIP, which they're in the process of finishing.
Have you guys prepared an estimate of cost for removal in the event that it needs to be removed some point in the future?
I can get a decommissioning estimate, or a full system removal estimate for you guys, if that's something that the board would like to see.
Well, that was one of the, believe that was one of my comments, that they need to provide that. They need to provide the decommissioning plan and a bond.
Point, would we expect that? I guess that was my, I'd like to, look at that, evaluate that up against what they're proposing for surety. Have you got that far in the process yet?
We can work up an estimate for a decommissioning plan on fairly short order. We haven't made it that far yet.
Okay.
But if that's something that you guys would, Stephanie outlined that in their conditions. Like I said, we received that just last week with the holiday weekend and everything. Our
Do you have
engineers
the zoning bylaw?
pulling that together.
I mean, it's laid
Is that,
out.
I was going to
in
say, is that,
the-
is
it's
that,
laid
is that
out
a
in the
requirement
zoning.
of our bylaw?
Yes, yes. So I referenced that in my, so we
Yeah.
can just go over exactly what that is.
So, so am I wrong? I mean, this is the first time you're in after you have a ZBA approval.
Yep.
And it's pretty simple, it's pretty laid out, as I recall, without reviewing the bylaw right now, of the requirements. And I'm hearing a number of requirements that we don't have, to Mr. Stetson's point. So I'm just, are we, and this is a question for the, and we do a good job as a board, and we try to help out and move things along, but at the same time, are these important issues that we, if we go ahead and vote to approve this without these items, then it's almost like, well, why do we have these items in the bylaw if we're just going to go ahead and, what
Well,
I'm
the
saying?
decommissioning, because the surety, you wouldn't require it now, but what we do is put in the decision that the surety has to be put up before they're issued. They need an electrical permit before they can get the work underway and started. So in the
But
decision.
let's say they come in and let's say in our minds, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but let's say just in our heads, we're thinking, okay, the surety must be, the amount should, X dollars to take this down. And they come in and say, it's going to cost us $5,000 to take this place down. Yeah, right. So, what I'm saying? So why are we approving something before we have all this information, I guess, is what I'm saying. Because it's not like there's that much, there aren't that many hurdles that they have to cross on this, but they don't seem to have crossed any of them from a site plan standpoint, all due respect, So, but why do we have this process in place if we're just going to wave it on through, then why are we even bothering having
Well,
site plan review on this, I guess?
I don't think, I'm suggesting that the board should waive it through, but the condition would be in your decision that they have to come back, and it has to be a sufficient amount. So basically what it says, an amount in form to be determined reasonable by the Planning and Zoning Board, but in no event to exceed more than 125% of the cost of removal and compliance. So they'd need to come back with an amount, what the amount would be to remove it, and the board would review that and approve that surety.
So in the decision.
But that process.
And I would want the,
Excuse me, I'm sorry, but that process, that what you just said, that's not, where are we allowed to do it through that process? It's not in the bylaw.
Through your
that way.
decision. You can incorporate that in your decision. And I would want
Do you think that's a good
I-
decision, or do you think it's wise to just continue 2 weeks and get these dozen
think
things
you-
that are simple things that we don't have, so we can deliberate over this and wrap it up?
You could continue.
I mean, and that's a question for the board, I guess. I just, you know.
I mean, it's something that stuck out to me in your report, Stephanie, and, you know, I'm a little bit uncomfortable just kind of waving that piece of it through without seeing and having a chance to digest what, you know, this is, the decommissioning estimate has to be provided by an engineer. And, I mean, we may wanna have somebody look at it.
Mhm.
And I just, if we approve this tonight, I'm just concerned that we aren't gonna give this enough thought.
Yeah, I mean, I really think we should continue it, get together, you know, with the staff, and any members could comment, you know, the planner with anything that they thought was, you know, missing from the plans. The applicant would have, if we get that done in, you know, within a few days, and the applicant will have, you know, 10 days to have a more complete application for us to review.
Well, yeah, as I understand it, I mean, her report, right, has gone out.
Yeah.
They couldn't do it because of the holiday, which I understand, but I'm just, again, there aren't many hurdles to cross on this, and many, they haven't been, and I just, you know, and, you know, to Robert's point, so, I just, you know, I'm all in favor of expediting things, but I don't know, at the expense of truly doing our due diligence or a thorough review. I just wonder if we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
Well, and I would also, you know, I think if you look at the bylaw, it's not just the amount that we're approving, it's the form as well.
Right.
That's something I would like to see presented in advance, so we can kind of marinate on that, because it, you know, these things, if it ends up not working out in a few years, I mean, you don't want this to just be sitting there not being used.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's to that point.
Right. And yep.
So, what's the board's? What do we want to do, board?
Motion
Sounds
to-
like we were in agreement to continue.
Yeah, motion to continue until, to the next meeting on June 10th.
Second.
Any further discussion? Any fast computers? Hearing none? All those in favor? Thank you. So, why don't you get together with Stephanie so we can get through this expedited manner next time. Thank you, sir. All right, let's see. Next is Queasy Commons, 15 Roosevelt Circle.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So this is the old,
Thank you, Doug.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Suzanne, I mean, she can, if you need one, Suzanne can have the hard copy. This is all online, right,
2,
Doug?
3, 4. Oh, excuse me. Is that the microphone?
It's working.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. King.
This is Building B at Queasy Commons, and my idea is the original site plan had one large building, and I thought it would be better for the development and for the inhabitants to split the building into two parts, and under the garage have a area in the middle that would be like a patio and open space. So that rather than have one building with just two sides I can get 2 buildings with 4 sides. And the footprint is a little smaller than the original 48-unit building. And I wanted to try a different design on this particular building. So the front page of the self-elevation shows a 4-story building in the middle, and then 2 3-story buildings on the wings of each side. It's the building contains 29 units, 24 units of housing, and 5 units of commercial space. The west side of the building, from the opening west, will have a 5,100 square foot restaurant, pavilion, function room that we're working with Shoaltown Brewery on creating something over here. And it will also have outside dining and functions, which can also orient themselves on Morse's Pond. In the east side of the building, there was 2 spaces that we had talked about on the commercial side that will be flex spaces. So they'll have 2 800 square foot commercial spaces on the first floor, and then an internal stairway that would get to a 2-bedroom unit on the second. And then the east side facing Stoneforge would have 2 commercial sections, approximately 1,200 square feet each. So it's trying to just bring another approach and look into Queesa Commons.
Yeah, I like that there's a new look.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I think,
just
yeah,
to separate it. So, all right, so just so we all understand, so basically you're proposing Building B be
If you
done
go
sort
on
of in 2 phases, right?
Right.
And so originally building was 48 apartments?
Yeah.
And you're gonna do 24 now and
And I
then?
think it was 11 or 12,000 square foot of commercial.
Right, okay. And so you wanna do 24 of the 48 now, gotcha.
But that, and the footprint of the building is in the same, very close to the same footprint
Sure.
of the original. With, as we come under the garage, that middle part will be a brick patio area and some trees and stuff.
So will the underground parking, will both buildings have underground
Yeah,
parking?
they'll have the same
Will they
entrance
be connected? Or,
when I build the second one.
yeah, like you
So I
break
have
through?
a breakaway wall.
Right, gotcha.
There'll be like a retaining wall on, but, so I can get to the second
And
building.
this is, for those who have been out, so this is sort of where you have like, there's some, like some grills set up. There's like a little park out there right now,
Right,
right?
that's where it is,
This
yeah,
is,
and
okay.
a flagpole.
All right.
Yeah, so
And-
if you go to the, second from the last page, it will show the original site plan that you had approved Building B. I think it's 3 in from the end.
It's the one that says sheet 2 of 2?
Yep.
Bottom.
Yeah, P1. Just before.
Oh, I see, okay, I got you, I got you.
But 202 does the same thing.
Right, right.
And then the last page shows the overall. Oh, and I think, I believe we're approved, but we gotta ask Stephanie, we're gonna do a walking pass around the pond that I think we're approved by the conservation.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
we are approved.
I thought they were already installed.
Well, some of them, but not all of them.
So,
We wouldn't wanna do anything without it.
so are we, is Doug here, is this just an informal discussion?
This
or
is
we-
just a discussion to see if
Well,
the
you can
board.
approve it tonight. I mean, we're.
Right.
I
So
don't
they're
think
looking
it
to
was
sort of
very-
modify the facing plan, is that, like, what's the process we have to do?
So, every building needs to come before the board
Right.
for approval, including the elevation plans, the site plans. I mean, I don't know if you'd consider this, I haven't spent a lot of time looking at this. If this, to me, this is still more the concept for the two buildings instead of the single building. And I think my understanding was Doug was coming to see if the board thought would be amenable
Yeah.
to this change before proceeding and
Yeah, so,
finalize
right,
it.
so if we were, so we would have to do a modification
hearing.
to the phasing plan, which is, or a site plan, I guess, just because the
Right,
connection, there'll be, movement between the two buildings, for lack of a
Right, so what you,
better
how
word.
you've been proceeding with the Queesit Commons is, you'll remember back in 2008, the board approved the master plan, which was the general layout, the general phases. And then every site, each particular building development comes back and it's a hearing process. So they'd need to submit an application and it would be a hearing and be noticed, just like any other.
You know, it's a minor change to the original special permit, given that it's, buildings are being broken down into two buildings.
I think so.
Well, I think it's a, I think it's, well, here's a, I think it's a change.
It's
This project's a little different, where we have the master plan, like
Right.
sometimes we have minor and major modifications to site plan, but this really isn't a major modification to the site plan, 'cause, you know, in terms of
Right.
layout and topography,
Right.
stormwater management, right?
So for the original Queesit, bylaw that we wrote, it defines minor and major change, so. we
Yeah,
just have to look
yeah,
at it.
so we'd have to look,
So
right,
I don't know if
yeah.
that's changed to the original special permit, or however we have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, he's taking the existing building and proposing to do it in
Two.
Yeah,
in two.
yes.
I mean, other than that, it's really just the fact that he's, you know, I'm assuming this is brick.
Yes.
You know, the ones that are post-shade red anyways.
Right, the
You know,
location.
that's just the
yeah,
normal architectural approval process,
The
right?
location and the
Yeah.
shape are about the same.
And we're with, if you go to the last page of the, of the pass out, that shows the original approval of all.
Right, yeah.
So it's building 15.
Right.
But
So, but Greg, to answer your question, I mean, I think that's really up to the board. Is it a minor change? Is it, do you need to see more complete architecturals for the building before you'd approve it?
Well, yeah, I mean,
think
that we
that's-
would, in keeping
right.
with what with
Right.
what we've done. But I mean, so I guess, I think Mr. King's here to see if so we have a discussion about this and if we're okay going in this direction before you go and do
Yeah.
a full set of architectural plans.
yeah, to meet all your requirements is a lot of work.
Right, of course.
We wanted to,
And we appreciate that. So, what do you gentlemen think? Or do you have any questions, or you're even first, you know,
I mean, it's really just a ground floor change, right? The original building was,
right.
I haven't seen the original building drawings, but I would consider it to be a relatively minor overall change.
The space between, and let me see, the area between the two buildings, will it have vehicle traffic or just pedestrian? So just,
it'll be elevated because of the garage under.
right, oh, gotcha. Yeah, so it's really not a, yeah, okay, so
It's less coverage.
no, right, but so it doesn't, but the street layout pretty much stays the same.
Yeah, the street
Just
layout-
entrance to
exactly.
the underground
The lot
garage.
stays the same,
Right.
And are you planning on building the front or the back, the rear first?
back.
The back, okay.
It's an
And-
interesting concept that the craft beer people,
Oh, yeah.
they don't want to be seen.
Oh, really? Yeah, that was, yeah.
Yeah, it's a hideaway. It's unbelievable. But it's perfect. I think.
Oh, well, you might be able to help them out. They might be able to have the ponds there. They never know the way that could work out, depending on, right,
And,
yeah.
and the bicycle guy, if you know him,
Yeah. Mhm.
he's interested in maybe having kayaks and stuff that he.
Oh, yeah. That's why I was picturing that, right, because of with the pond there,
We're
right?
gonna make an entrance to the
the-
pond. I
looks
think it's
like-
nothing but an improvement.
Yeah. It
If I
just
was
looks like
the plant
the,
board, I'd be excited.
yeah.
Where do you enter the garage?
Pardon me?
Where do you enter the garage?
So if you
In the
go to
Is it,
the schematic
does that say?
plan, I don't know.
Yeah.
This sheet here?
Park.
No, Yeah, so you're coming in the,
That long arrow?
yeah, and then down in where you'll come down into this one, but there'll be a breakaway foundation over in here.
Right.
So ultimately, the garage will be under that patio area between the two
Sure.
buildings too.
Does that say into park? Is that what that says?
Entrance, I think.
Oh, that says entrance?
EN.
Entrance to parking. Is there an exit to the parking? Or is it?
No, there'll be
Is it the
two ways
same?
in and
In and out?
just like the ones we have now. You
Okay.
come in one side, go out the other, we hope.
But once you move along to the plans, we'll be able to zoom in there and, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
right, yeah, we don't.
Yeah,
have to-
but just, yeah, so I mean, again, it doesn't really, it doesn't seem to, yeah, because you had the entrance to underground parking there already. In, sort of, yeah, so it's the same relationship. Okay.
In terms of how to proceed, is it as simple as us figuring out if this is a minor or major change?
Well, I think we have to do two things. We have to figure that out and review, and my thinking, without pulling out the, is that it's minor. I look at it two ways. Change in terms of the traffic flow, of the site plan layout. It's pretty, it doesn't really change anything.
Yeah,
Knowing that
Rob,
it,
you might not even have that in your,
yeah, it's a different, there's an appendix
so we
section,
should get there, yeah.
which you might, it won't be in that.
But yeah, sometimes there are some of those technicalities where you might not even know that you need it until you go to get a loan, and then all of a sudden, they do all their stuff, and then we have to sign something at the last minute just to sort of, right, yeah.
But so what we did, going back, we approved this, I think, in '08, right, originally? And part of the approval there was a phasing plan, for the number of buildings short. And that's been, and there was a developer's agreement with the town, and so both of those have been tweaked a little bit through the years. So really, the major difference, the major change here is just doing it as two buildings versus one, but it's the same footprint. So I guess, okay, yeah, we just go back and review, and I don't see why we wouldn't be allowed to do that, and just take a look.
Right.
And then second would be the architectural review. So Doug's, in the past, he's come in with sort of preliminary renderings like this, hey, we're going in the right direction, before, before he goes with a full set of exterior plans, which is expensive and detailed.
Right, and he's still gonna have to update the site plan because the footprint
Right.
is a little different, so.
Yeah,
don't
which he's
forget
had to
the
at each one, because as
foundation.
you get into this, as you design the building, the locations of entrances move and things. But I'm thrilled to see, I'm thrilled to see
A little bit of
a
a mix
different,
of
some
architecture.
diverse architecture in there. And I think, definitely, I think another restaurant and brewery, entertainment, that's what we envisioned back 11 years ago with this, so, yeah. And I take it the rooftop patio on the fourth floor is for residents.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks nice. So does anybody here see a reason why Mr. King should move forward with these plans architecturally?
Nope.
It would make a nice hotel if you had, some rooms and a restaurant there, rooms and a restaurant.
Oh, you still got
It'd be a nice
You still
location
got
for a
the second
hotel, then
building.
you'd have.
There's a great location for a hotel in here, yes. There's a couple great
Doesn't have to
locations.
be right there necessarily.
But we'll have that discussion another day.
I might with the brewery in the same building,
Right,
I
yeah.
have to walk, all the way across. All right, well, I don't know, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think we don't need to take a vote or anything, just informal, but I don't envision any issue with me, I mean, again, the engineering is, it really, the modification of the site plan, it comes down to how it affects engineering.
Right.
When you think about
Right,
it, or
right.
stormwater management,
Right,
et cetera.
and
And that,
right, we'd have them look at it to make sure there were
Yeah.
no significant changes there.
and like you said, this is actually less coverage,
Yeah, let's
when
go.
you think of it, so.
Parking stays
And
the same.
Building B was scheduled to get underway last year. So, the town is anxious to see this move forward because the number of units are no longer counted. They fell off after the 2-year period after the project was approved. So, we're looking to see these added to the subsidized housing inventory.
Sure.
That means
That
the
as soon
faster
as
you
you-
move, the faster I
The
can start.
faster, that's right.
So the burden's on you guys.
So when can you bring the plans in?
Stamp out.
So, yeah, so, you know, get that architect going, get those plans in here.
Okay.
We'll get that moving. Is everybody, we all good with this?
Yep.
Right? I think you're here for another one, right? Yeah, 4
For 4
Forbes Lane.
Let me report for that, right?
Oops, sorry.
Take it back.
I do not need one in fact, thank you. Oh, well, Suzanne will have one. So, Mr. Chair, I reviewed this, and the new configuration seems to comply with the zoning requirements. The one comment I did have is you have this really odd check mark piece right here with this strange pinch point, and it didn't seem to me that it really benefited Lot A to have
Does.
that.
We need land area for some, we haven't decided exactly what we're gonna do, but I thought with some of the way your zoning's written, 3 acres are better than 2 acres. So we're up to
So
3.
which zoning, because,
Well, we don't know what's the best thing to do on the development, but,
it just seemed like a really odd
yeah, the whole,
lot configuration, and wondered what the purpose was. And it's, I think I indicate in my report, it appears to be less than 5 feet between the lot lines at that pinch point.
well, we own Lot B too, but it's sort of, that was where the town dump was.
Right.
So it seems to me that that area could be, I should have talked to the guy ahead of me for solar. That you could do something for solar there and have something tie in to benefits for the town, whether it's CPA money or scholarships or something like that with the solar. But it's gotta, the way we set it up, the Lot B, we set it up into a non-profit. So it'd have to change that or to leave it into something that would help the community, I think would be a good thing.
That pinch point that we talked about is 5 feet, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
But it gets you out to.
Right, it gets you out to the other
Yeah,
road.
Yeah, and you never know what happens. You got the Easton Baptist Church abuts it, and the 187 Bay Road.
So I guess, Doug, what are you trying to do with the 2 lots? I know we talked a little bit.
I really don't know, but I want to have as flexibility. I think the building that's been done for the last 50 years with the big lots and the big streets and really isn't the way to go, and I think the population's changed.
If you move that,
So I wanted the flexibility to see what is good.
but
and
if
what
you
is
move
best.
this property line to the west,
Pardon me?
is it, so the property line that's dividing Lot B and Lot A, what
Yeah, the limit
happens
of the
if you
landfill.
move it further to the west and create something a little better than what's there? Even if you moved it across like that. So you see what I'm saying? You could, So it sounds like you're thinking of maybe doing some kind of either flexible or denser development here?
Maybe, yeah. But I don't know. I'm in no rush. I got plenty of work. But I
So-
don't want to,
If you
want
move,
to have it dead myself in. I want to have flexible, and I think all across the country, infill,
right, so I guess,
sensible housing is the future of the country.
and again, Greg, what I'm
This
suggesting,
sprawl that been done for the last 60 years wasn't a good thing.
right, so thinking that maybe if you move this property line something like this, either all the way down or even like that, you'd get a more regular shaped lot. I mean, you're not going to be able to do anything with that
You can walk across it.
check mark. I just,
I don't know. I mean, you still have the alternative of going east. If you go into Needham, Wellesley, even some in Easton that you're seeing tear downs. I mean, there's still opportunities. We're in no rush. We got plenty of years ahead of us, so we'll come up with something creative. Just like
so
this building.
maybe, if I could. I
Oh, go
mean,
ahead. Go ahead.
Is it premature then to come with an A&R that, when you are then locked into this odd-shaped lot, and you'd have to come back and reconfigure it if,
Well, I'd increase it. It's just like splitting building B into two things, making a better building and having more land and more open space.
right,
How do you do it better? That's all we want to do. So,
and I'm not discouraging that, I'm actually trying to encourage that.
So is it where the lines that say limit of the landfill, is that approximate, or is that something that's been established, or?
I believe it's been established from,
So you're trying to just create a lot that is separate from the
yeah, I don't want to get into that.
landfill, right? So
wanna-
that's why you get that 5.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, it's something you can walk across or anything, but I don't want to get into. That was the whole thing. We know unequivocally the person that causes a landfill or a disturbance of the land is the person responsible for cleaning it. So I think it's better for all of us to let sleeping dogs lie.
Oh, so that's all you're trying to do here, is create a lot that's completely separate from the
Yeah,
landfill?
I don't want to get into any problems.
Right, and you feel safe that that other section is not part of the landfill, so
Yeah,
it-
It would
why
keep
make it, why make it a lot C when you just
Yeah.
incorporate into lot A and, right, yeah.
exactly.
And are A and B, they're one lot now? Is that what?
No,
No, you're increasing the size of A?
Yep.
Gotcha.
So B currently has the check mark, I guess included, we'll say.
yeah. B's the 6.68 acres.
But right now it's like,
It's all.
7.
Well, what happened is, this was a gravel pit.
Mhm.
And so it was really a tough site. So we took Will 100 years to dig it out. It took us 10 years to fill it in, all around. And then we put pine trees in where the landfill was.
gotcha.
They were little saplings, and now they're
Yeah, I can see
30
that
to
from this
50
picture.
feet. But I wouldn't want to put a swimming pool in there, or a house. So I think we should stay away from the landfill.
Yeah, well, we don't always like these oddly shaped lots, but we don't usually have these next to a landfill either. So,
Words to live by.
so I'll make a motion to endorse the plan.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? 4-0.
Thank you.
All right.
So now, back on building B. So we want to really push that for our meetings. How do we?
Okay.
You need to submit an application
Yeah.
and submit the documents through Permitize.
And get
So
the
you want to get
architecturals.
Sam on board with that. He knows what to do.
Okay.
Yeah, Stefan does
And then we'll get
smart
it
growth.
on.
The bylaw's not even available online anymore. It says to contact your office if we want.
It is available, but
Oh.
I'll,
Oh, you can just email it to us.
yeah.
You know, maybe, I was thinking about this, because I know,
want to have that added to.
maybe we could have those printed for the board members, the appendix. I was thinking about that last night,
Yeah.
especially where we've had a couple new members.
Yes,
Just,
yeah.
you know, then we can, and if they could
There's a-
be
there is
if
a
they could have
link.
3 holes in them too, that'd be great, because then we can
We'll add 'em right to
But
that.
we could just put them in our planning binders. Please and thank you.
Yes.
All right. This is one of those things that still, I like, it's better having it, I mean, especially because the service is so slow in here. The online service, not you guys. It's better, it's just nice to have it old school paper in our hands, I think, sometimes during these meetings. Yeah, so get your exterior architecturals on that and tweak the site plan the way it needs to be tweaked. And we'll, this week, Stephanie and I, we'll get together, we'll look at the bylaw, but I don't think we're gonna have an issue major, minor, because it's, I mean, we're not gonna, it's not like we're gonna have to require, there shouldn't be stormwater changes and things like that. It's with, I can't, but we have to look, obviously.
Yeah,
I can't imagine what it would, and it's been a while since we've done that, so.
So when's your next meeting?
June 10th.
And so you want
When's
to
the
be
one
on for
after
the
that?
second one?
Yeah, 'cause you're gonna have to
It's,
advertise, right?
14 days, 24.
You have to advertise anyways.
Right.
When's the
Yes,
second,
yeah.
when's the one after
24th.
June?
The 24th? What's after the 24th?
Is it the 24th? Don't we have a 3-week jump in somewhere?
All right,
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
a-
I don't know.
You have we have 2 meetings in June.
June 24th, we can do it?
You get, yeah.
Well, I can do,
Have Sam submit
so
the
on a-
application, start the application tomorrow.
on a minor phase difference, do we actually need a new plan recorded, or can we just have phase A, phase B?
Or like a new master plan, sort of, you mean?
You
Yeah.
don't need a whole new, I mean, you need a,
We have to see how we did it in the on the last.
Yeah, we
building.
just go back and look, but I mean, I don't think
Right.
it's gonna have to be that
Yeah.
difficult, whatever we do.
Whatever
but
we
I-
did with the last two, we should probably do the same thing, so it's kind of consistent, right? I mean,
right. I mean, you haven't filed anything on Building B yet.
No.
So your filing would be very much the same as for
I think
the
I might have
island
filed a
court
foundation.
and for the front
I
building.
mean, if we had to, we need to somewhere memorialize that Building B is now gonna be done in 2 phases.
Right.
We just need to find the simplest way for us to do that, so why make it more difficult than it has to be, so. So we just have to go back and look through all the how we've done it, we've tweaked it a few times, so we just gotta look at that. But that can be done during this entire process, so it's not like it can't be done parallel.
But the actual site plan review will be just on the first building.
Right.
Good.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, so next it says Lincoln Estates 2. I think
So-
you would like to
Right.
talk
So
about
the
that.
board voted to issue a decision. This is the 2-lot subdivision off of Lincoln Street. And it has a private roadway that then splits off into, it's not a common driveway. There are the individual driveways off of the private roadway. And it requires, normally, it would be a homeowners association with a homeowners covenant to oversee and govern the ongoing maintenance and repair of the roadway, and then the stormwater stormwater features, structures. In this case, because it's a two-lot subdivision, the applicant and his attorney got back to me and said, you know, trying to do a homeowners association, it's expensive, it requires, it sounds like a level of incorporation and a lot of paperwork and writing up the homeowners agreement and covenant. And they asked if they could do it instead through a deed restriction, which I believe you have copies of with the decision. I looked at the deed restriction. I think that it makes sense. It
I believe we have an attorney.
encumbers,
on the board.
yeah, it
that
requires
too.
that each of the property owners are jointly responsible for the maintenance
like
and
to say
repair of
We like to
the
read these things.
private roadway, and
Yeah,
that they're
that's fine.
each responsible for the stormwater management components that are located on their own properties.
So is there a specific page or paragraph that we're tweaking
Yes.
that you want
It,
to note?
So we eliminated, I didn't do a red line on this, but we were eliminating one of the conditions, and then the owner, condition number 3, which talked about ownership shall confer, and it was membership in the homeowners association, automatic membership in that. Now it confers responsibility for all maintenance of and snow removal from Williams Way and any appurtenances thereto, including but not limited to all components of the stormwater management system located on that lot. This responsibility shall be incorporated into the deeds conveying ownership to either lots. And then the deeds talk about the stormwater management structures on each of the individual lots and the responsibility there.
Seems like an odd restriction to put in. I mean, what's the enforcement mechanism? It's just in a deed, it's just sitting there in a deed.
So it doesn't give the town
I
enforcement?
mean, I guess probably, look, I'm not here with my lawyer hat on necessarily, but in terms of thinking through this, you know, it's almost as though, and I get the issue. I mean, putting together a condo association, I get all that. But this, in my estimation, would take that responsibility out of the special permit altogether, because the only requirement then is that this responsibility is incorporated into the deed, and the deed is just that. It's not anything that the town can enforce, it's just a deed. Let me stop though and back up. There may be a way to do what they're proposing, but we would still need to keep these requirements as special conditions. Because there's gotta be
Right.
an enforcement mechanism, and the deed itself is not something that the town can just enforce.
Right. So
I mean, there might be a way to tighten up the language, so is
the language
what
in
I'm
the,
looking at right now, the proposed language, is this number 3? Where this first sentence is essentially ownership of a lot in the development shall confer responsibility.
yep,
That language would, if this is something that could be done, I just think that that special condition of itself needs to be tightened up. Because at the end of the day, in terms of the obligation, from our perspective, it doesn't really matter if it's a homeowner association that governs it, or if it's the individual property owners. It just matters that we have the
We
ability
have,
to enforce.
so we would need to include language in here that authorizes the town to be able to take action.
Well, I think the language just needs to be tighter, that they are required to be responsible for all maintenance and snow removal from Williams Way, et cetera, and so forth.
Now, who owns?
So
oh, yeah.
maybe
Go ahead.
a new 3, and this 3 becomes 4, where it states that the owners of Lot A and B, let's say, are responsible for the snow removal and maintenance and the ongoing functioning of the stormwater, and this is real rough language, the stormwater management structures on the site. And then 4 is that, and 4 would still stand, ownership of a lot confers that responsibility.
Part of it, I just don't understand that sentence. Ownership of a lot in development shall confer responsibility. I guess, what are they trying to say? That
Well, it might be who owns the actual road.
It's trying to
what's
say
being
that
said
the
is
owners are
whoever owns the
responsible,
lot
Yeah.
is responsible
Right.
for.
the 2 own, right.
It
And-
should just
and
be
that the
more
town is-
affirmative. I mean, the owners of the lots in the development shall be responsible for. It's funny because the mechanism, whether it's a deed or a homeowners association, it's temporal, because, they could change the homeowners association 5 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
So we would still need, in other words, I guess what I'm getting at is it doesn't really matter whether it's by deed or homeowners association, as long as we have the requirement. So as long
So
as
you
we're
think
more
this
affirmative,
just needs to be stated more clearly
Yes.
instead of this kind of arcane language here?
that's my take.
That the owners of the lots in the development shall be responsible for the ongoing care, maintenance, including snow removal.
Yeah, I mean, I like how it's, broad, including but not limited to all components of the stormwater management system located on that lot.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really the first clause that just needs more clarity.
okay. I mean, we can easily change that if you think that's,
Yeah.
I think that provides it. So the owners of the lots in the development shall be responsible for.
So with an
Owners of,
association,
and I would identify the lot specifically.
so before, would the association have owned the road? Who owns the road now?
Both owners, I mean, they're responsible for it.
But how do they do that? I mean, they're gonna,
For the deed, yeah.
they're gonna file a deed for the road, or the road just sits there and then no one?
Is it a private way?
It's a private
Yeah.
way.
But the lot lines on the plan are showing,
Yeah,
the road's separated out.
3 different plots.
Yeah.
I mean, we have lots of roads in town that are private.
What
ways,
ties
especially
the
those in-
2 lot owners to owning the road? Right, that's what you're asking.
Well,
Yeah,
usually the association, I mean,
because what if
Owns-
you own
right, yeah.
one lot, I own one, and he owned the
I mean,
road?
the way I understand it, in a condo complex, the association sort of owns the roads, unless no one owns those roads.
So in this document, does it state that the road is owned by the association and that ownership of one of the 2, either of the 2 lots obligates you to be as a member of the
No, they have to be.
association?
They have to be owners.
You have to tie, I mean, you have to tie, it.
Just
that's
in
how it
that
has to be
was
tied
the
together,
missing
right?
piece if
Or
you
does
did
the
it this
ownership
way.
of that split 50% to one lot and 50% to the other lot?
Well, that's typically how it happens, right?
Yeah.
Where you've got, I forget the old statutes, like the defeasible something or other
Yeah.
statute, but basically you own to the middle of the road, but then the
Okay, right, yeah.
town has an easement essentially.
Yes, to use it, yeah.
Public road. I mean, I guess, yeah, is this the type of thing that we would, because that probably implicates title issues. This is probably something that, ask them questions? Can we throw it back to them and ask that question? Because I think it's
Yes,
important
yes, yeah.
that Peter makes that. Oh, here it is. I'm just looking at the deed. Oh, all right, so that's even better. So they say it right here.
Oh,
Together
right
with a
there.
one-half interest as a tenant in common with
Yeah.
the other owner in the private roadway.
Okay, yeah, that's the,
So that's
Ah.
perfect.
yes, yeah.
That all makes sense. Is that yours or is that?
I don't know, Greg's probably.
Oh, it's just,
All right, so I'm assuming you want to
Shared.
see that change before.
I think we should,
Yeah.
yeah. Now that we have an attorney on the Okay.
This one is different. I mean, that's, the homeowners association is what has been done in the past on the private ways, but usually it's at least 3 or more lots.
All right, meeting minutes, let's get those out of the way. Fourth page, 2/3 of the way down, Mr. Strange, a little 2-sentence paragraph. Mr. Strange indicated he wasn't necessarily a fan of EFS, but understood the economics. That wasn't what I was trying to say, so I'd like to just strike that last 4 words, please. Yeah, but I just like indicated he wasn't necessarily a fan of EFS.
So you didn't have a problem with it.
That's not a manufacturer's trade name, so I'll be protected. And whenever you're ready, anybody wants to make a motion, it'll be, feel free.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes with the change that Mr. Strange, mentioned.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? All right, motion passes.
I'll just abstain because I wasn't here.
Oh, sorry. Motion still passes. Special, next up, ZBA request for comment, special permit 19-6 for 520 Foundry Street. This is the proposed drive-through window at the Foundry. And I guess my 2 comments on this, if this does pass, they'd be coming to us for site plan. There's a couple of site plans on it.
Right, they've already submitted for site plan review, and in fact, I already wrote my report Suzanne, did you? Okay, I don't. Oh, okay, so Suzanne's attached it. The one comment I have is that they are, what they're showing is that there's one-way traffic in, I mean, you have two-way traffic in the parking up front, but then to go around to the back of the building and then around through the drive-through, it would be one-way traffic. So you enter on the driveway on the westerly side, and then you'd go around the building and you'd exit on the easterly side. They're showing a drive-through lane, a dedicated drive-through lane, and then they're showing a passing lane. The passing lane, in dedicating that for passing, they've eliminated 6 parking spaces. If you look at the number of parking spaces they have now, they have 45. You eliminate the 6, and that leaves them with 39. They don't indicate in their report how many seats they have and how many parking spaces they are required to have under the zoning bylaw. I went to the Board of Health Department, and they have on their plans just showing that the septic design was designed for 50 to 70 seats. Even at 70 seats, they would have more than enough space. But I have heard anecdotally that parking can be at a premium, and there's an overflow during peak hours. So I don't know that to be a fact, but I do think that when they come for site plan review, they should indicate how many seats they do have in the restaurant and how many parking spaces they should have as required by the bylaw.
Just 2 thoughts. I recall when this was it Dorothy
Logos?
Lou's? Was that the name
Oh,
of it?
Dorothy
It had,
Lou's
it had a
was-
drive-through window back
Right,
then.
yeah.
So this is just looking to put
Right.
that back in. And there is, I live right up the street from this, and since the day they opened at certain times, they do often, people park across the street. Because it's sort of an unusual parking lot layout anyways.
Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily bad to have parking across the street, but
Right.
it is a busy
Sure, no,
street
just,
for
just,
people to
right,
be
just,
crossing.
just is, I'm not saying it's good or bad, that
Right,
just is,
yep,
that's,
yep.
is what it is. So, anyways, so when we have requests for comments to ZBA, we can do one of 3 things. We can vote to recommend, we can, with or without comments, we can vote to not recommend, or we can take no action. So, I will now open the floor for the thoughts of my fellow members.
Well, I noticed the parking, also, on the plan, and as well as being there, but it's okay, it's okay. I wonder if the dumpster on the proposed plan is already in the spot where it's shown on, where it's not shown.
I was just trying to think that.
Yeah.
I can't,
Yeah, in the back corner.
I can't recall. I'm surprised that it had that many existing parking spaces to begin with.
Right. It looks like they're maintaining the 1 handicap space. Yeah, I've seen people park like right on the edge of the street almost.
And it's a 10 by 20 parking spaces, so you know how I feel about those.
Well, I'll make a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Appeals.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes. All right, let's see, chair report. Nothing to report. Town meeting was record length, I think. What time did we get out of there, 12:30? That was a long one.
After 12.
And I think as a planning board, we need to unite and march on the town administrator's office and demand at the next town meeting that zoning articles not be the last of us. Well, actually, I didn't have to present anything this year, so, but it's very nerve-wracking when you're up there for four, I mean, that was a long town
Oh, yeah.
meeting. Oof,
It was very long.
that was a long time.
Yeah, if you have
But
to wait that whole time to speak to you, must hear, yeah.
I learned it makes, time passes faster, because this year with not much to focus on, and just listening to debates,
Yeah.
boy, it did feel like every 5.5 hours that it was.
Maybe they
that
think
it
it'll
took.
sort of keep you moving along once you get up there. And once you're in the spotlight, then.
Yeah, you.
Or you just.
Everybody always accuses me of getting gabby up there. I am very succinct at
Quiet.
town meeting.
You should make a motion to adjourn.
Right now?
No.
I don't think we're through the.
Oh, yeah.
I'll hurry up.
That was a really good
But
recovery there.
but anyway, so the Article 31, right? Was it
Yes,
31?
yes.
Which just put the wording that was missed last year for the two-bedroom limit in the Foundry compact neighborhood. Put it in, passed, I believe unanimously.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it. And I'll let you talk about Judy if you want.
Yes, so the board we've been talking about looking at the zoning for the Five Corners area and for the mixed-use zoning in the Village Business District, and the board wanted to contract that out. We got a quote from Judy Barrett. She's going to do first phase, try to get everything started over the next month. Greg and I are tentatively scheduled to meet with her on the 10th, right? I think.
Yeah, I think I see your email right before I came.
Yep,
Yeah.
just to have a preliminary discussion, and she's going to start doing some groundwork, and then we'll have a meeting with the board.
And Judy is well versed in Easton zoning. She helped us, as you guys recall, you guys were here, but the Queeset Commercial District, which includes 661 Washington, when we did both versions of the major overhaul of the zoning of that, Judy worked with us. And did she work with us on the master plan? She's worked with us for so much.
She was part of the group that was
Was she a
one
consultant?
of the subcontractors,
Right,
and then
that's
she started her own business. We actually didn't get to work.
Okay, because we were. I mean, she's been involved in a number of projects with us.
Yeah,
in
she
Easton,
worked
so.
with the town on doing the fiscal impact analysis for the Avalon project in Dalben when they were being considered.
And yeah, so she's
Quite a bit of
enjoyable to
experience.
work with. She brings her expertise to the table, but listens one of the few consultants. I shouldn't say few, but does a good job of actually incorporating the feedback of residents and of the board too. She doesn't just come in with her own idea.
What is her background?
She has been a planner for many, many, many years, and zoning regulation, zoning policy, as well as housing. She did our original housing production plan, the first update in the time that I've been here.
She's like the
She has a lot
CPTC, the Citizens Planning Training Collaborative that the state runs, which has has an ongoing continuing education year round. Has a great symposium or conference every spring up at Holy Cross, and she's very active. I think she's on the board for that.
Yep.
So she's well versed in zoning in Massachusetts. And she's done good work for us here, so do look forward to that. Anyways, all right, I think we're good. In Wayne's absence, who would like to bring us home?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Easton. Thank you, ECAT. Good night.